Good morning. Good morning and welcome to our annual Salute to the Veterans Breakfast. This year marks our 10th anniversary of the annual Salute to Veterans Breakfast. My name is Hillsborough Mayor Doug Thompson, and on behalf of the Township Committee of Hillsborough, I thank you all for joining us here today for what has become, and rightfully so, one of our most important events within our community, the Salute to Veterans Breakfast and our Memorial Day commemoration program. I am honored and humbled to stand before you in this room filled with so many heroes and patriots in this town which I was born and raised, and now continue to raise my family on my own. It gives me a tremendous sense of pride and honor to honor our veterans today, and to those we mourn on this day, one of the most significant days of the year. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge some very special cards which you will see on the center of your tables. These cards were part of the Junior Girl Scout Troop's 60734's Bronze Award project. They chose to work with veterans and active military. As part of this project, the troop worked with other local troops, CCD classes, and even some school classes to make the thank you cards that are in the middle of the tables today. Please feel free to read them and enjoy them while you're eating breakfast. You're invited to please take one or two of them home as a thank you for all that you have done for our country. Also, we want to acknowledge all the troops that helped out with that. Troop 60391, 60056, 60072, 60203, 60261, 60108, 60644, Mrs. Hobson's third grade class at Hillsborough Elementary School, and multiple CCD classes at St. Joe's. Thank you once again. At this time, I'll ask you to please rise and join Assemblywoman Donna Simon in the salute to the flag of the United States of America, and please remain standing for the invocation and the national anthem.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Would the Reverend William Urbach now deliver our invocation?
Let us pray. Divine and almighty God, Father of us all, we invoke thy blessing upon this assemblage of good and true men and women. We ask you, Lord, that as we pause in our day and our busyness, that you bless us, not only for the dedication and the service that has been rendered, but also for the thoughts and reminiscences of those who have not had the opportunity to be here. Bless those who have provided for this day to happen. The commitment, the dedication, the perseverance that made it all happen. And so, dear Lord, as we go through the day and the ceremonies and the civilities of the day, may we never lose sight of those who, unfortunately, cannot be with us, but who rest eternally in your care. In thy beloved name we ask all of this. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend. At this time, please welcome the Hillsborough High School Chorale as they will be performing the Star Spangled Banner.
For the ramparts we walk.
us on this Township Committee are very grateful and give thanks to our veterans and those who continue to serve our country. I am joined here this morning by my colleagues, Deputy Mayor Greg Burchett, Committeeman Carl Sirachi, Committeeman Frank Delcourt, and Committeewoman Gloria McCauley. At this time, Committeeman Carl Sirachi will now say a few words as he was here 10 years ago for the first breakfast. Committeeman Sirachi.
Thank you, Mayor Thompson. And yes, 10 years ago, we started this annual Salute to Veterans Breakfast as a way to recognize and show appreciation to our veterans. Small token of our gratitude for their service, a time for camaraderie of our community. When I had the pleasure to serve as mayor in 2006, we were looking for a way to do more for for Memorial Day commemoration, beyond the parade. And at the time, the idea, the genesis of this breakfast came up. And just out of curiosity, how many were here back in 2006? All right. Thank you all. And I'm sure you probably remembered at the time it was a smaller breakfast. We easily fit it, we're able to fit on this side of the room. And I believe we only had to have one mic go around, and you're going to see the tag team. I believe Assemblyman Chitterelli and Assemblywoman Simon run around to make sure we get everyone in here. But as you can see how it's expanded, overflow, and I think it's even turned into a little bit of standing room only. And from that, some other opportunities we had to honor our veterans. Our Veterans Day program. We've had some opportunities to work with the Order of Purple Heart, and even today, and I feel it's very fitting that we're going to have the ribbon cutting ceremony for Veterans Way after today's parade. Also, one of the other things that have come out of this breakfast, as you can see, is the youth involvement that we've had here. And I do want to thank you all to help pass along what Memorial Day means. To all the youth, to the high school students, to the Girl Scouts here. So it is our honor again to be able to host this event each year with the support of the community in honor of our veterans. And again, I'd like to thank my colleagues, both current members of the Township Committee, keeping this tradition alive, but also many of my former ones, which also includes Administrator Ferrera. Where is he hiding? Who was serving on me. Where is he? There he is in the back. And also all the staff and the team of the Hillsborough Township government. So thank you again, and let's just keep this going strong each year. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Committeeman Sirachi. No, not 10 years ago. I was not in high school. I just wanted to answer that quick question to get that off the table. I was definitely out of high school and college, but yes, me and the Congressman, we both were out at that time, so thank you. At this time, we will now have our Table of Honor and Remembrance ceremony. Please join me in welcoming Deputy Mayor Greg Burchett as he presents the Table of Honor and Remembrance. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. 5 years ago, this element was added to our commemoration program, the Table of Honor and Remembrance, which you see in the front here. It is my honor to present this table at the center of the room. It has been set aside in memory of those who have paid the ultimate price for our freedom. The empty table signifies our remembrance of the sacrifices that have been made in defense of our country. Please join me in a moment of silent remembrance for our service people who have made the ultimate sacrifice. Please remove your caps for a moment of silence.
We are honored to have a few special guests who have taken the time to join us here today in order to recognize our veterans. Please welcome Congressman Leonard Lance, Senator Kip Bateman, Hillsboro's own Assemblyman Jack Chitterelli, Assemblywoman Donna Simon, Somerset County Freeholder Director Mark Caliguire, Somerset County Surrogate Frank Bruno, and there's one other very special individual in the room today, Mrs. Joan Biondi. Where's Joan? Thank you all for taking the time to be here to commemorate Memorial Day and honor the memory of the brave heroes, the men and women who fought and died for the preservation of our great nation. Those who gave it all so that the freedoms that make the United States of America the envy of all the world continue to be passed on to future generations. On a recent business trip to our nation's capital, I was drawn to the World War II Memorial in honor of the 70th anniversary. In the solitude of reflection, I pondered the meaning of today. I believe this day holds a different meaning for each of us. In its basic form, Memorial Day is a federal holiday here in the United States to remember the people who have died serving our country in the armed forces. The day originated after the American Civil War and was known as Decoration Day. It was to commemorate the Union and Confederate soldiers who died in that war. It wasn't until the 20th century that it transformed into the Memorial Day and was extended to honor all Americans who died during military service. For some, this day marks the onset of summer and vacations. For others, this day represents a time of gratitude and remembrance. For yet others, maybe this day is a visit to the cemetery, maybe the laying of the wreath or the placement of a flag on a grave of a loved one. Today is the day we put aside the remembrance of our fallen heroes. It is a day to say thank you for the valor of others. For us in Hillsborough, it is a somber day of thoughtful gratitude. It is this day that we honor our brave men and women who selflessly sacrificed their time away from family and friends, missed countless birthdays and family gatherings, and those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice. We give thanks for their courage and sacrifices. On this day of commemoration, we honor, we remember, and we pass on to future generations. In a little bit, many young children will line our parade route later this morning. They will cheer for our veterans who will lead our parade. This is an important aspect of today, so that the future generations will stand with open arms and welcome home our heroes and remember those who perished and did not return home. At this time, I'm going to call Committeeman Frank Delcourt to say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor. As part of the 10th anniversary of our Salute to Veterans Breakfast, I'd like to honor the past Grand Marshals, many of which we have here today with us. So for those that are here, please stand when I call your name and remain standing so we can recognize and honor you here this morning. From our first breakfast, 2006, John Lapidow. 2007, Becky Lapidow. 2008, Mildred Murphy. 2009, Bob Brock. 2010, Ted Dima. 2012, Philip J. Gentile. 2014, Chris and John Conroy. We have 3 of our Grand Marshals that unfortunately were not able to make it here today for this breakfast. From 2011, Armando Consalvo. In 2012, we had one of our 3 father and son teams that we've been able to have as Grand Marshals. Philip Eden Gentile was not able to join us today. And from 2013, Rob Motion, unable to join us. And finally, and sadly, we have 2 of our Grand Marshals unable to join us today due to their untimely passing. From 2006, Stan Lapidow, who shared that honor with his son John in our first breakfast. And of course, from 2011, Hillsboro's own, our Assemblyman, Peter J. Biondi, whom this building is named after. I'd like to thank you all the Grand Marshals that are here. We honor you. Thank you for your dedication and service. For those that weren't able to join us, we hope that they'll be able to return and bless us again with their presence in the future. And if you'll please stand for a moment of silence for those Grand Marshals that are no longer with us. Thank you.
Each year, Hillsborough Township asks the veterans to lead us in remembering and paying tribute to those who perished in service of our great nation, protecting our freedom, our liberty, and our way of life. This year, in honor of World War II, we are privileged to have Tech Sergeant Leo J. Hornsby of the United States Air Force serve as our Grand Marshal for the parade. Thank you for your service to our country and for serving as our Grand Marshal today. And at this time, I'd like to present you with a commemorative plaque of the ceremony. And this is his son, yes. You'll be hearing from our Grand Marshal a little later at the Guard of Honor ceremony following the parade. At this time, I would like to call upon Congressman Leonard Lance to share his thoughts on this day. Congressman?
Thank you very much, and good morning to you all. It's always a pleasure to be with you on Memorial Day weekend. I believe of the 75 municipalities I have the honor of representing in the Congress of the United States, Hillsborough, among all those municipalities, commemorates Memorial Day to a better extent and to a greater extent than any other of the municipalities in this congressional district. This is the first day of the 101 days of summer. The Saturday before Memorial Day to Labor Day. 14 weeks and 3 days. 101 days. But Memorial Day is not a day of celebration. It is a day of commemoration. And in particular, we commemorate the war dead. Now that is a harsh term. The war dead. But that is what Memorial Day is about. Those who served us in the military and did not return home. On Veterans Day, we celebrate all of the veterans who have served us, including the veterans in this room, the veterans in this county, the veterans in this state, the veterans across the nation. On Memorial Day, we remember those who gave all, who gave their lives so that we might continue to live in freedom. From my responsibilities in Washington, I see daily the sacrifices that are made by the military. I see, for example, that in Nepal, 2 weeks ago, brave Americans in the military lost their lives trying to serve the people of Nepal after a devastating natural disaster thousands and thousands of miles away from the United States. I see in my office in Washington and in my district offices here in New Jersey, veterans who come in, veterans who deserve medals that they may not have received. And I also, on occasion, have to mourn the loss of someone whose life was given so that we might continue to live in freedom. All of the freedoms we share together this morning here in Hillsborough Township, Somerset County, State of New Jersey, United States of America. Freedom of speech, in which I am now engaged. Freedom of association, together this morning, in support of our veterans. Freedom of religion, essential to this country. And all of the other freedoms we share depend ultimately on a military willing to preserve and protect the values of the United States of America. From the Revolutionary War, to the War of 1812, to the Mexican-American War, certainly through the Civil War, a crucible that divided this country, to the Spanish-American War, the First World War, the Second World War, and there are veterans here this morning from the Second World War, and then on, Korea, Vietnam, and our more recent conflicts in the Middle East. We have relied on the military to make sure that this country will continue to exist and prosper and flourish. The world looks to the United States as the great exemplar of freedom. Our values are superior to the values in many other parts of the world where there is not the right to speak publicly or privately, where there is not the right to worship as one chooses, where there is not the right to assemble freely. And so on this Memorial Day, let us all recall the sacrifices of those who have served us in the military, and in particular, let us recall the ultimate sacrifice of those who did not return home. Certainly, it is a great honor always to be here in Hillsborough with the person you have chosen as Grand Marshal. And I'm honored to be with you, Sergeant Hornsby, and you should be very proud of your service to the nation. And to that end, at my request, flag has been flown over the Capitol of the United States to honor your Grand Marshal. One of my happiest responsibilities in Congress is to be able to request that a flag be flown over the Capitol on special occasions. As I walk from my office in Washington across Independence Avenue to vote in the House of Representatives, I of course see that great iconic dome of the Capitol, and I see the American flag being flown over the Capitol. And I am reminded every day as I cross Independence Avenue of the sacrifices that so many have made so that I might vote on your behalf freely in a democratic republic, and that flag continues to fly over the Capitol in no small measure due to what you who have served in our military have done. I congratulate each of you for your public service, and to you, Sergeant Hornsby, I present you a flag of the United States flown over our Capitol in recognition of your service and of your being Grand Marshal of this wonderful event in Hillsborough this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, may God continue to bless all who serve in the military, including those who are in service today in harm's way, amen, in a distant land. And may God, of course, continue to bless the United States of America. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Congressman Lance. Next, we have Senator Kip Bateman, who will share his thoughts on Memorial Day. Senator?
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning to everyone. And let me thank the Congressman once again for his great words, and I thank the organizer of this event of putting me behind Leonard Lance. It's always very difficult to follow our great Congressman. Leonard, thank you. It is great to be here, and let me first, I know the Mayor mentioned her, but I wanted to also recognize Joan Biondi. We lost a great friend and veteran in Pete Biondi when he passed, and I think this is one of Pete's favorite events, and this really became so big because of his efforts towards this. And I know that he may not physically be here, but I know he had something to do with the weather once again. So Joan, we're happy you're here. We can't tell you how much we miss Pete. This is the third event in 3 days that I've had an opportunity to participate in to honor our veterans. And it's great to see, because I think what happens too many times is, people think it's a 3-day weekend, the sales at the mall, you get great deals on cars this weekend. They don't take the time to really reflect and think about the many sacrifices that you all have made for our freedoms in this country. So I love coming to events like this. It started Friday morning. Jack and Don and I went to one at Stony Brook School in Branchburg, and it was sensational. And yesterday I had an opportunity to speak on the Battleship New Jersey 101.5 with Jim Gerhardt, recognizing the veterans. And just being part of these ceremonies just tells you how lucky and fortunate we are to be in this country, and really because of all of your sacrifices. And my words are probably shallow in gratitude to what you've all done, but I think the best way to do it is you read the cards that these Girl Scouts have made, and they really said it perfectly. Thank you very much from the bottom of our heart. God bless America and continue to prosper. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. Next, Reverend William Urbach, who served as a chaplain in the U.S. Army for 23 years, He was awarded the Silver Star and Purple Heart for heroic actions during the Tet Offensive in 1968 in Vietnam. He retired from active duty with the rank of Lieutenant Colonel. Please welcome Reverend William Urbach. Reverend?
This is not my speech, so don't panic. I want to thank my sister and brother Mike and brother-in-law Mike and Marie Avolio for proposing my coming, and I want to thank those who have allowed me to have a few words to say with you. I am a Jersey born and bred and educated here, right through the State University. And the war literally took me away from you. Like every preacher, I have a drum to beat. And I thank you for the opportunity to beat my drum. I also want to thank you veterans. Thank you for your service. It really touches me when I walk through a airport and see these young kids. Boy, are they young. See these young kids with uniforms on, and I walk up and thank them for their service, and they're surprised. But I think they're grateful. I know I am. You know, we think about Memorial Day, and I thank the Congressman for his very succinct points. Started way long ago. In fact, 240 years ago, last month, there was an assemblage of 70 soldiers, citizen soldiers, who lined up on a green in front of 500 British soldiers, led by a Marine Major Pitcairn. Captain Parker, who was the Minuteman commander, saw what was facing him, and he said to the troops, "Disperse." Very wise man. An old infantry saying is, "He who learns to run away lives to fight another day." In any case, someone, and we never know, we'll never know who, fired that shot that was heard around the world. After all was said and done, one British soldier was wounded, and 8 young men and boys lay dead on the field. We don't remember their names, but they are to me the epitome of freedom is not free. Ask a vet. Freedom is not free. Again, I thank you for your service. And we're here to remember all of the guys down through the years, the guys and now gals who made the sacrifice. And I'll be perfectly honest, I have a personal interest in this. This is a special shirt. This shirt was wounded twice. While I was in it. But I was only wounded once. That doesn't make me special. Not at all. Because there's others in this room who also suffered the same disease. But we are special in the sense that we're survivors. We survived. Those of you who never got to see or hear the elephant served your time, you too are survivors of your duty to this country. And for that you should be proud. But today I stand before you asking you to remember my boys. For during that year in Vietnam, I had to write 130 letters to mothers, wives, and these are copies of those letters. They never, ever leave me. We have wonderful cemeteries. Arlington is beautiful. All across the country, there are national cemeteries to remember those who died. Overseas, there's wonderful cemeteries. If you ever get a chance, bless you, to go to Normandy, that cemetery is awesome. Absolutely awesome. Belgium, Germany. There's one I want to leave with you, because to me it has a message beyond messages. The one in North Africa. There's an archway that goes over the doorway to that cemetery. And in that archway is carved these words: tell them we gave our todays for their tomorrows. That's the challenge of all you survivors. To tell them, and never let them forget the ones who didn't come home alive. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend. Kip, you thought it was tough to follow a congressman? Try a lieutenant colonel is a man of God. That's... Whew. Thank you. Honestly, thank you. One of the highlights of this breakfast program is the musical presentation of the Hillsborough High School students who make up the Hillsborough High School Chorale, led by Chorale Director, Mrs. Juliana Lobiondo. These young people get up very early on a Saturday morning and volunteer to perform for us. The chorale has been attending this event for several years, and while the students grow up and move on, we're yet again fortunate to have another group of new students who are willing to step forward and keep this tradition going. We thank them all for being here this morning and their continued commitment to our veterans and our community. Please welcome the Hillsborough High School Chorale as they perform the Armed Forces hymns. Thank you, Ms. Lubiando, and the Hillsborough High School crowd. One more time, please. We are not only honored this morning to have so many Hillsborough veterans join us to lead our Memorial Day ceremonies, but we're also honored to have spouses of deceased veterans with us. Would the spouses of any deceased veterans please stand up to be recognized at this time, please? At this time, I'd like to call up Vietnam veteran Joe Ferrara to share a poem in honor of this day.
I like this special occasion for me. I wrote this poem, I would say about 15 years ago, while I was attending a memorial, memorial dedication for our veterans. And I was just sitting there and these words just started coming into my head. The poem is called Forget Not. Shall we always remember, at least not forget, our brave men and women who now are our vets? Their duty may seem small, but they made that ultimate sacrifice of all. They gave up their freedoms so you could enjoy yours. Forget not their heroism and honor, nor all of the wars. For they left their families and some their wives, and they fought so proudly and laid down their lives. They cannot return here to tell you their stories, so they must stay in our hearts with honor and glory. So now on this day that we honor our brave, let us salute our flag as it so proudly waves. We should bow down our heads and pray to the heavens above to tell these brave soldiers of our undying love. So let us pray that their souls are at rest, for these brave heroes are Americans' best.
Thank you for that. These events just don't happen. It takes a great deal of work on behalf of many dedicated individuals to whom I wish to express our sincere thanks this morning. Please join me in thanking the staff and volunteers from our Parks and Recreation Department, led by Ron Scobo and Assistant Director Nancy Bergen. Our Public Works crew, led by Rich Reserve. Many of whom are also veterans, and some of them are here with us today. Our administration staff, volunteers, and Mrs. Virginia Hudson. I also want to personally thank our administrator, Anthony Ferreira, and our clerk, Pamela Borak, who spent countless hours this week putting this together. So I want to thank them as well. We also wish the numerous sponsors, and recognize the numerous sponsors of the program that is listed in the back of the program, that without them, we wouldn't be able to do this. So at some point, if you don't mind, taking a look at the back of the program and seeing who generously contributed to make this event possible for all of us. Before we begin the annual roll call of veterans, I thank you all for being here this morning and for honoring the true meaning of Memorial Day. If you are a widow and would like to honor your husband during the annual roll call, please state their name and branch of service along with the other veterans. Again, thank you for joining us this morning.
J. Hornsby. I served 10 years, South Pacific to the North Atlantic to Berlin Airlift. And I'm just grateful I could do something for my country.
I'm Bruno, United States Navy, and thank you all for your service. James Blair, U.S. Army.
Rich Spinelli, U.S. Navy, 1954, 1957.
Mike Florentino, Marine Corps, Vietnam. Leonard Brown, Spec 5, United States Army Engineer Corps, 1957 to 1964. If I may, I'd like to mention my brother, Specialist 5th Class William L. Brown, Vietnam, came home, died in 1979, victim of Agent Orange. Thank you.
Sergeant Regan, U.S. Army.
Tom Bill, Sergeant United States Army, Vietnam, 1965 to 67.
Bob Kane, United States Marine Corps, served with the 1st Marines in Vietnam, 1970 to 71.
Spec 5, Peter Biondi, United States Army, Armory Division, 61 to 65.
Dave Albert, U.S. Army, Korean War, 1951 to 53.
Bob Brockgate, Marine Corps, 1966 to 69. Vietnam, 1968.
United States Navy, Victor Makovecki from 1944 to 1954.
Tim Coyle, 1966, 1970, United States Air Force, Kadena Air Base. Thank you, Township of Hillsborough, for doing this for all our veterans. God bless.
I'm speaking for Alan Moskowitz, U.S. Navy, World War II.
U.S. Army, Korea. Former Grand Marshal.
Mildred Murphy, World War II Army nurse. And I'd also like to mention that my husband was on Iwo Jima as a Marine and wounded. Received a Purple Heart.
Charles Ingraham, Sergeant, U.S. Army, Germany, 54, 59. And I'd like to say, hoo-ah, to all the guys in the Cold War.
Spec 5, United States, served 64, 67, Special Ops, 319th ASA, Southwestern Germany.
Phil Gentile, United States Marine Corps, 1st Battalion, 1st Marines. I want to remember my my cousin, Lieutenant John Gentile, was lost in the 29th of December, 1944, B-29 Navigator. Thank you.
Michael Rolio, Army Reserve, 469th Engineering Battalion, 1963 to 68.
Roy Horowitz, United States Army, 1981, 1987.
We'll let you honor. She wants to honor her deceased husband.
2 of them.
Wait a second. She's one of those people who doesn't even need a microphone. You notice?
I'm here 53 years in Hillsborough. So I'm just going to tell you something very important.
How long is it? How long is it? How long is it we do?
2 minutes. Don't keep me away. My first husband was in the Navy, in the submarines. My second husband was at, see, my memory is bad. He was in the Battle of the Bulge. He was on the 5 islands. He has medals all over. This is what he got from France. And I want you to know that I'm very proud of these men.
We're proud of you.
But we were all World War
Still here.
Joe Wagner, United States Navy, 1964 to 67, Vietnam, and proud parent of Major Christopher Wagner, and proud father-in-law of Major Catherine Wagner, United States Marine Corps, currently serving.
Gus Dante, United States Army, Vietnam era vet, Fort Bragg, 62 to 68. First of all, I want to thank Hillsborough for a great job honoring the veterans. You guys are #1, and I'm a Branchburg resident. Major John Rapido, still currently serving, 26 years and counting. 2005, Operation Iraqi Freedom, Air Assault Aviation.
Bob McRae, United States Navy, 74 to 78, nuclear.
Major Becky Lapito, U.S. Army. I served in Afghanistan. I'm still a part-timer. And I just want to honor my father, Colonel Stanley Lapito, who served, he was Vietnam era.
My name is Paul. Okay. I was in the Navy. I had 3 ships. The first ship, the Tin Can, I went to Cuba. Downstairs was nice, better stairs, upstairs was way better than downstairs. The Navy. I don't know, but I know that one. She knows what I'm thinking.
What branch? Navy?
No, Navy.
Tell me your name.
My name, I said that, Paul Solomon. I told you. Oh, I was in the Navy.
Gunnery Sergeant Justin Ortega, United States Marine Corps, 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines, Iraq ×3, Afghanistan.
Sergeant Agini, 1950, Korea.
My husband, Donald Morgan, served during the Korean conflict, was in for 8 years in the U.S. Army and the Air Force.
Bill Urbach, United States Army from 1967 to 1989, when she made me retire.
Also in our family on active duty who has been in Iraq twice, our son, Colonel James Urbach. Wow. Now teaching at the War College, and a retired son who was in the Air Force as a Navy.
Michael Silverman, Vietnam, CVA 66, USS America from 68 through 71.
I'm Dave Ferguson, served in Korea in 1963, missiles, which we got at the LOC.
Audrey Morrison, wife of Joseph A. Morrison, U.S. Navy Reserve, and proud mother of Kevin R. Morrison, who is Commander of the United States Navy.
PSC Ralph Broyles, U.S. Army, 3rd Beam Attack Battalion, 37th Armored, Germany.
Names, U.S. Marine Corps, 1957 to 91, Operation Desert Storm.
Howie White, U.S. Army, 2nd Army Division, 64 to 66. And I'd just like to memorize my father-in-law who fought on the beaches at Normandy, Vinnie Markievicz. Thank you.
Bob Julian, United States Air Force, 50 to 55, ended up chasing Russian submarines.
Jim Bob, U.S. Army, 1st Cat Division, Vietnam, 1970, and I want to acknowledge my father-in-law who was served 440 days in combat in World War II, including Normandy.
Lou Passamano, U.S. Army, 1951 to 1953. I won't bore you with the story of Cape Cod, but I do want to recognize those that gave their all that are now lying below the earth, and to us that are still surviving above the earth. God bless.
Former Grand Marshal Ted Dima, U.S. Army, Vietnam, 1968. And I would like to remember my father who passed away last year at the age of 96, who was an Army veteran of World War II, served in Europe and the Pacific.
Michael Tenor, U.S. Air Force, 1955, 1963.
Rich Shepley, United States Air Force, 1968 to 72, at the station in Turkey.
Chris Conroy, Staff Sergeant, U.S. Air Force, 1964-1968.
Mary Kelly, Army Nurse Corps, 72 to 76. And just as important, I had a long career with the Veterans Administration, East Orange Lions, where I witnessed excellent care of our veterans.
John Conroy, United States Air Force, 2004 to 2014, Iraq, Afghanistan, Africa.
John Kelly, United States Army, 1969 to 1973, and I married my Army buddy.
Sergeant Austin Metcalf, from 2009 to 2016, 2 tours in Afghanistan.
George Marias, U.S. Army Air Defense, Vietnam, 67, 68, Air Defense.
Rich Byrne, Army, Vietnam.
Jim and Julie, 70 Army, 67, 68, that offensive. And I'm glad I'm not in that ambulance.
Tony Fusco, 1967, 1969, Fort Dix, New Jersey.
Ken Jenko, United States Marine Corps, 1970.
Louis Galucci, United States Army, 65, 68, also 10 offensive.
Tony Natal, on behalf of Anthony Natal, Army, Vietnam.
Bob McDonald, United States Army, 61 to 63, Cuban Crisis.
Sergeant John Bennett, Army, Vietnam, and I've been in Hillsborough since 1948.
Anthony Lorenzi, U.S. Navy, World War II, 1943 to 46.
Wayne Tuck, Staff Sergeant, United States Air Force, 68 to 72, 537th Troop Carrier Squadron, Vietnam, 70, 71.
Jim McGuire, United States Marine Corps, 6th Marine Regiment, 2nd Marine Division, 75 through 78. And because I didn't get enough the first time, my buddy convinced me to join the New Jersey Army Reserve National Guard, 2nd 102nd Tank Battalion, West Orange. I would just like to remember a good friend of mine who I was stationed in the Marine Corps with, Lance Corporal Henry Lloyd, who in 1977 was one of 49 Marines and sailors who were killed when a Spanish freighter cut into their Mike boat accidentally just off the coast of Barcelona.
Joe Ferreira, United States Army, 82nd Airborne, 3rd Brigade, Vietnam, 68 through 69. Continued on to 71. I was a chaplain. Campo Rodriguez.
Lee Hendrickson, 1971-73, United States Navy, USS McCaffrey, DD-860, Vietnam.
John Carney, U.S. Air Force. My father was in the Army, my brother was in the Navy, my son was in the Marines, and I'm in the Air Force. Thank you, and I thank all the veterans for what they did for me.
Bob Babinski, United States Army General Corps, 71 to 73. I'd like to thank my 2 uncles who were in World War II. My 1 uncle was killed in the Korean War. All you veterans and all the veterans that are in the ground. Thank you very much.
John Macon, Spec 4, U.S. Army, 62 to 68. Wheeling, County Corps, U.S. Washington.
Quentin Metalongo, U.S. Army, 53 to 55.
I'm Dan Sullivan, Army Reserves for 40 years, in Operation Iraqi Freedom in 04. And I want to also recognize I'm here with my aunt Alice Duretti. My husband Louis served in World War II throughout Italy in the major offenses.
Donald Robinson, U.S. Army, Armed Korea, 1951 and 53.
Diaz, U.S. Army, Sergeant, 1966-68. Thank you.
Frank McCarthy, United States Army, 1960 to 1963.
Good morning. Charles Scobler, U.S. Navy, 44 to 45.
My husband, I'm here in memory of my husband, Jesse Harris, who served in the Vietnam War. He was awarded 2 Purple Hearts, and when he came back from his tour of duty, he served at the Pentagon until 1970. Also, I'd like to, while I'm thinking of the memory people, my dad served in World War II in the Army, the 29th Infantry, and I have 2 uncles who passed away in service, one in the Air Force and one in the Army.
George Mollett, U.S. Army, Korean War. Mario Rugo, United States Air Force, 54 to 64, around the world.
George Reed, U.S. Navy submarines, Korean War, 1948 to 1952.
David Bohr, Machinist Main, 2nd Class, United States Navy, retired, 1982 to 2005, Iraq, 2003.
Kathy Fee, U.S. Army, Captain, Germany Nuclear Weapons.
Jim McDonald, U.S. Army, occupation of Germany, 54 to 56.
Jim Weisenfeller, U.S. Army, 1951 through 1954, and I come from a military family. My dad fought in France in the First World War, and my mother's brother George was killed in France in the First World War. And I had 3 brothers in the Second World War, 2 Navy, 2 and 1 Army. And when the Korean War came along, I joined. And I have 2 brothers that were in the Army when the Vietnam War started, but one was already in Germany and the other one was in Korea, so they didn't serve in Vietnam, but were in at that time. And I want to thank everybody here this morning for this great gathering.
Ryan Chris, United States Marine Corps, Second World War, 43 to 46.
Ron Newsom, United States Air Force, 96th Combat Support Group from 67 to 71. Served in Tan Son Nhut Air Base in Saigon in 1969.
Regular Ted Elizito, regular Army, 1954 to 1957, and also in the standby reserve to 1962.
Bob Olberg, United States Air Force, 1968 to 1972, served in Utpat, Thailand. Also, New Jersey Air National Guard, 1972 to 1990.
Dave Lambert, U.S. Army, 63 to 65.
Dan Collins, U.S. Army, Vietnam, 68-69.
My name's Tom Cronin, retired Navy, duty on carriers, I'm overseas duty, 1945-1972.
Dave Goldman, I'm the U.S. Naval Air, 53, 57, and again 61, 62 for the Berlin II crisis.
Darren Campanelli, U.S. Army Sergeant, attached to the 77th Special Forces. I didn't jump out of planes. I was used for engineering skills only.
U.S. Army Tribute Class.
Aaron Moore, West Point Cadet.
Pound Saloli, U.S. Army, 1966 to 1969. I was an E5. My last duty station was Userer in 7th Army Headquarters at Heidelberg, Germany, where I worked with the Deputy Chief of Staff, Communication Electronics. I'd also like to honor my son, Brian, educated in Hillsborough. Brian is a Naval Academy graduate who got his wings of gold from Pensacola, Florida in 1996. Brian was in the Navy from 1990 through 2005, and I believe I mentioned already he was Lieutenant Commander. He had 2 Persian Gulf tours patrolling the Iraqi no-fly zone, and his last assignment was as an Air Operations Officer for Strike Force 1, headquartered in the Pacific Fleet in Coronado, California.
All right, Mayor. Last but not least, the guy that's responsible for all the great food we ate today.
Steve Bloom, United States Navy, 77 to 81.
We delivered in record time, Mayor.
We actually did finish on time, so for that, thank you all. We do appreciate that. Again, we have a few minutes, and I look forward to seeing everyone on the parade. Thank you, everybody.